with a whole lot of truth. Remedy Revolution is here for you. Ooh. And now here's your host, Erin Page.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Remedy Revolution podcast. My name is Erin, and today's guest is going to talk to us all about a topic that so many people, so many couples really struggle with, especially because we're in an era of these later marriages, later pregnancies, and so many families really want to get started having kids and are struggling to get there. And so I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Aumatma Simmons. She is a holistic fertility expert, and I'm excited to chat with her today. Welcome, Dr. Aumatma.
Thanks for having me, Erin. I'm
Absolutely.
excited to get into it.
Yeah. So, first of all, because I think this is always important, I always say so many of us healers get into this because of our own personal journeys. And
hmm
I've heard that that is how you got started as
A
well.
little
So,
bit.
tell us a little bit about why you became an expert in fertility.
Yeah, it is far from what I thought I would be doing with my life, but I was married to this man who wanted to have children, and every time like he would mention babies, my uterus would be like screaming no and like kind of freaking out a little bit. And I was like, oh my God, I'm like, really, am I scared to have a child or do I not want to have children or is it not with him? And I went to a lot of like introspection, trying to figure out what is it? Like what's happening here? And what I came to was honestly, if I really was saying the truth, I didn't want to have children with him or my body didn't at least. And I then freaked out because I was like, oh my God, everything I've heard from my training and medical school and all of that was your fertility drops off of a cliff at 35. So I was like, well, if that's true, and here I am like 10 years deep into this relationship, then we have a problem. And so I just started researching and I was like, what can I do for my fertility? Will I ever be able to have a child later if I choose not to with this person? Or should I just like have the kid and then still not be in this relationship? And that's okay too. Um, so I went through that process of figuring it out for myself. And there were a lot of people around me that were kind of like watching the journey on a low key way. And they were like, well, I want to have babies. Can you help me? Like, what are you researching? What are you finding? Like, maybe you can help me. And I was like, no, this is really just research, like I'm not doing this so that I can help you with it. And they were like, but why not? Like, just try it. And so like people just kept coming and I was like, okay, I guess I'll see what happens. Um, so that's kind of how I started initially. And it was only like a few months into my like where I had started seeing a lot of clients for fertility. And then one of my friends needed help with his acupuncture clinic. And he called me up and was like, hey, can you like come in and like work with us for a little while? Like our ND just left and she like had a really big load and we don't have anyone to take her place. We need some time to like figure it all out. And I was like, okay, sure. I had no idea what I was walking into, but it was essentially like stacks of fertility people. And the colleague who was the lead acupuncturist there, she was like, "Oh, you do fertility? Great! I have so many more people." And she just like kept sending them all to me, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is overwhelming! Like a lot of fertility people." And very quickly, I was um, just like what I was learning for myself, I had applied it sort of kind of in clinic, and now I could like really test it out in a big way and realized that some of what I was learning and like the protocols that I was creating were really like spot on for so many people. And people that hadn't gotten pregnant for years were starting to get pregnant. And I was like, oh my God, this is cool. Like this works. So then that was it. That was the shift point of like, okay, this is just all that I want to do at this point is just
Yeah.
have help people have babies. Uh, so
Yeah, it was so amazing. I think a lot of what you said rang true for me personally because, even though I got pregnant with my son, without really trying. I mean, I wasn't focused on having a baby at that particular point in time. But after his diagnosis, after he became really ill, and as a mom, like my entire world revolved around helping him to heal. Um, I found a great fear about getting pregnant again because, there are so many things that go through your mind about, will this next child be sick?
hmm
Will I just be
Absolutely.
adding so much more to my load?
Yeah.
All of these things that come up. Will my body even be able to physically carry a pregnancy to term? All of these things that really came up for me from a mental emotional perspective. And I think that's really important. And frankly, I never got pregnant again because of that. And
hmm
I do think that so much of this, um, fertility journey for so many people has to do with these mental emotional barriers
hmm
um, that we encounter. So I'd love to just kind of go deep into that. So, what kinds of barriers do you see most couples coming up against when it comes to that mental emotional type of block?
Yeah, I think there are quite a lot, and they're on both sides. So I think people often assume that it's just the female, but I can give you an example. And your story actually like reminded me of this couple who she was 37, he was 49. He was about to become 50.
Hmm.
And at at 34, they had had a child with autism spectrum disorder, and they were really like freaked out. And she was like, I can't, like, I can't have another child who is high needs. I love my child, but I just can't do it again. And I was like, okay, totally understand. And I had started like working with her, but very quickly realized that the his side was very interesting. And he was internally freaking out that he was going to become a 50-year-old dad. And he was like, my dad was 50 when I was 5, and it was the worst experience ever. And he had all of these things that he had created in his head of like, I'm going to be the old dad. And all of what this came out of was that he had chronic back pain since having his first child, and he basically went from standing up to laying down. He couldn't sit anywhere ever. So he would be like, he would ride the bus to work. And like, if I remember correctly, he was riding like an hour and a half long bus ride. He would be like working, standing up. And then he would get to his desk at work, working, standing up. And then whenever he got home, he would be laying down. So it was just like a very weird thing. And I was like, so what have you tried for this? And what have you been doing? And he's like, oh, I go to like three different types of practitioners that help me manage the pain so that I don't have to take pain meds. And I was like, well, can we like look at this? Can we dive into the mental emotional part? And he's like, absolutely not. That stuff is hogwash, right? And I was like, totally fine. You don't have to believe in it. You just have to try it. And very quickly, that's the whole story like came out of that. Like, oh, I hated my dad because he was so old and he couldn't do anything with me. And he was like just old, right? And that was his
Sure.
fear was like, I'm gonna be the old dad. So he had been kind of holding this fear in his body, creating this very physical pain. That's my belief. I don't know if I can prove that, But within 6 weeks of us like just releasing some of that mental emotional side, his pain went away. He went from like chronic pain, going to therapist 3 times a week, to not needing anything
Mm.
and sitting, laying, standing, like he was good. And then 2 weeks after that they got pregnant.
Mm.
And his wife like came in to tell me in person because she was just so excited. And that to me is like fascinating because it's not a fear that or it's not a mental emotional thing that I had ever like thought would come up. It was
Sure.
just one of those like, huh, that's really interesting. Like, how does that work? Um, so that's a interesting story. Another interesting one. I'm giving you the off the wall ones. I don't know
Yeah,
why.
it's okay.
There was a woman who was like 33, and that couple had a lot of interesting like interpersonal dynamics. Her husband was livid that they weren't having a child yet because they had been together for 15 years, and he was like, I wanted to have kids for 10 years and we would have had 5 kids already. And she's like, I'm not even sure I want to have one.
Hmm.
Like, I'm just getting to the point of maybe I'm open to one.
Hmm.
Um, and as we worked on her mental emotional side, she was very like viscerally present to a fear around childbirth.
Mm.
And that's probably come up the most frequently, is this
Sure.
fear that something will happen in childbirth. And historically that's been true, right? Like a lot of women have died during childbirth. It's less prevalent now. It's still, US is still one of the worst countries to have a
Yep.
baby in,
Yep.
but it's much better than it used to be. So it's not an unfounded fear. Yet she was like viscerally aware of it, and her body would start shaking every time she talked about this fear. So we knew we would have to do some work around releasing that in order to support her body to get to the point of being able to get pregnant and have a baby. And she did. That child is now probably 7, 6,
Hmm.
7.
Yeah.
So it's been some time, but she was a really interesting woman in that sense of like being able to feel the impact of something that we don't necessarily feel like we have control over, something that's
Mm.
happening in our head or our bodies that is just like this activated anxiety, sympathetic response, fight or flight mode. But those things are going to have such a deep impact on whether or not our body allows us to get pregnant, which I think is very um, relevant to fertility.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a guest, Dr. Stuart Fishbein, and we talked about during the birth process some of the fears that come up and how that impacts the mother's ability to give birth because, they're in this very sterile kind of situation that can create a lot of fear for the mother who, just like any animal, you're not going to, a
Mhm.
deer is not going to give birth in the middle of a forest fire because
Mhm.
it's not safe. It's not a safe
Mhm.
environment. And
Yep.
so there's so much of that load, I think, that comes up for us. Um, During the fertility process as well, things like
Mhm.
financial security, for example.
Mhm.
Do we have the means to be able to take care of this child once they're born? And some people don't even recognize those kinds of things are an issue or a barrier to
Mhm.
their fertility.
Mhm.
Um, so tell us a little bit about particularly want to hear the difference between how you're working with the women as well as how you're working with the men. I think so often, unfortunately, childbearing is a woman's job, right? But it really does take two people.
It
So
does.
there really needs to be a lot more recognition around the health of the man at the time
Hmm.
of conception as well. So let's kind of talk about getting both parties
Hmm.
prepared
Hmm.
for the optimization of fertility.
Hmm. I think it's really important for people to realize that fertility takes two. It's not just like men are always great and women are the only ones that are contributing to fertility issues. And it's so disheartening. Like I train providers also, so one of them this morning was like, "What do I do with this woman whose husband won't get sperm testing, won't do literally like won't do a single thing except have sex?" And I'm like, fired. Like just fired. I don't even want them in my practice because it is, to me, that's saying so many things. It's not just, oh, you think that this is a natural process and you should not have to do anything besides donate your sperm. But I think that when we really acknowledge that the health of our bodies is what is going to be passed on to our children through epigenetics. It's the expression of the genes that we have actively right now. And that epigenetics is passed down from generation to generation and it can be changed. So it's also not a permanent thing. It's not your genes. It's just the expression of those genes. And if your genes, for example, are expressing and showing impact of, let's say, prediabetes. You have blood sugar dysregulation, your insulin is off, you are not optimizing the use of energy in your body. That child has been scientifically proven to have a likelier chance of getting diabetes within the first 10 years of their life. To me is like, well, what did you do about it, right? Like you could have planned and prepped your body so that you don't pass that on. And
Sure.
what's really interesting to me is the research actually shows that the male side is passing on more of the epigenetics. So it's not just that the men are equally important. It almost feels like the men are responsible for the future health of their children, of the next generation. And of course, like, why wouldn't they be?
Mhm.
Survival of the fittest has always been a thing, and the male of the species is the protector and provider of that. So it is passed down through the sperm that the genes, the epigenetics, and the health of this child is going to be dependent on those things from the father. On the
I think
flip
that's
side,
so fascinating, honestly, because you're right. So much of that is, um, we think of, men being um, charged with passing on their seed, right? Like creating more and more generations and so yeah, I think that makes perfect sense that we would see the expression, the genetic expression coming primarily from the male sperm rather than from the egg. But I'm curious to hear what is coming more from the female side as well.
yeah, and absolutely, like are the genes that we contribute from each side are going to be equal. It's 50-50 on the genetics.
Sure.
But the epigenetics seem to be more relevant to the man. And then on the female side, like we are obviously the nurturer, right? So we're providing the environment, the cocoon that this baby will grow in and the initial template for nurturing.
Mm-hmm.
So if we are in a deficient state, then it's really complicated to pass on abundance because we don't have abundance in our bodies to pass on. So then we're passing on deficiency, and that child is often born with kind of a more challenged nutritional profile than
Mm-hmm.
they would be if the mom was in an abundant state. So that, and then what is also interesting is that on the female side, children are shown to be born with over 300. The latest is like 367 toxins floating around in the bloodstream at birth. So the placenta of this child that this baby was in the environment of is a direct responsibility of the woman. And unfortunately, like we are walking around in a very like a toxic soup of things unless we're super aware of what we're putting in and on our bodies. And we also have the ability to prepare our bodies before we conceive so that we lower the chances of passing on toxins to our child. And the lower, the better, right? Like theoretically, you can go and test, see how many you have, see what your load is, lower that, and then see test again if you are very concerned about it. But in general, like some sort of support around detoxing your environment, detoxing what's going into your body or on your body. If I remember correctly, the stat is like an average woman, this is before COVID and before all the online stuff, but an average woman will walk out of the house with 124 toxins having been applied to her body. That doesn't count food, water. It's literally just in the makeup and the hair
Mm-hmm.
products and the lotion and the soap, like everything that we have used in that morning. 124 toxins, that's pretty high. And we're doing that every single day, right? So even though they're in micro quantities, they're building up over time if our body isn't in a place to be able to handle it and excrete it efficiently. Then our cells just store it, put it away, like here, let's lock that up, put it somewhere else. And then until someone actually goes through an active detox, those things are sequestered away in cells in order to protect our body and to survive. So now we've put ourselves into survival mode. We're spending more of that energy in just like staying alive, and we don't have as much energy to procreate.
Mm-hmm.
So the the key then is for both partners to come to the table with like, hey, I know I'm contributing something. And then the woman says, yes, I'm contributing something too. And it doesn't matter who is whose like sperm or hormone or egg quality or whatever, like whose technical things are off. The foundation for both of us is the same. Like we
Mm-hmm.
still have to start with both of us on a solid foundation to be able to create from a place of health and vitality and give our child the best that we can, right? And that's all we can do. Like we can't prevent everything. We can't. We're potentially going to have children that have needs different, more evolved, whatever, right? But it is so important that we do what we can when we can do it.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people that will come already pregnant and they're like, what can you do to help me like have a great pregnancy? And I'm like, yeah, that ship has sailed. At this point, like we can give you a prenatal, some fish oil, like go and take these things, but it's not going to change what's already happening. And that what's already happening happened 3 months ago, not
Mm-hmm.
even when this baby was conceived. So Yeah, if we can take the long view of things and say, hey, for me to do the prep 3 to 6 months before I'm gonna get pregnant, before I intend to get pregnant, then I have set myself up to support the health of this baby for at least the next 18 years, ideally their whole life. We've created a template that is going to be so vastly different from the average population. And why isn't everyone doing this? Like,
Mhm.
why aren't we all making an effort to be like, what can I do? How can I do the best that I can for my child? And we will, so many of us will think about that after the child is born. But it's like, well, let's just take it a step further back and do it even before conception, even before that, the egg and sperm develop, which
Yeah.
both of them take about 90 days to develop. So that 90 days prior to conception is the key to giving yourself, giving your child the best possible outcomes.
So, for those who are trying to conceive, they're on this path where they feel as though their fertility is dwindling and they're not really sure where to go or what to do now that they've already, surpassed, let's say, ideal, fertile age. So,
Hmm.
what is it that you would recommend that they really focus in on initially to make sure that their bodies are as healthy as possible and can facilitate fertility if that's possible, a possibility for those two people?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. So I think uh, people might, different people might approach this slightly differently. In general, I would say every couple do a baseline of testing, and the
Mhm.
baseline doesn't have to be extensive. Let's just figure out where your baseline of hormones is on the female side and a baseline of sperm on the male side. That's the absolute minimum, right? Like you don't want to do a lot, that's where you start. And none of that is crazy expensive. You can do a semen analysis for like $150, $170, and you can do that basic hormone test for about the same price.
Mhm.
So, about a 300 something dollar investment into just getting the basics tested. So, that's step one. Step two is to think about how long have we been trying and how uh, how many signals or red flags do we see in our own lives? You can kind of think for the woman, it's a little easier. And this is why I think a lot of the responsibility gets shoved onto the woman is because we have the periods, we
Mhm.
are ovulating, hopefully. And I think of the period or the menstrual cycle as the report card, quote unquote, for that month, for the month
Mhm.
before. So if I have a healthy menstrual cycle, if my menses is optimal, the flow is good, it's red blood, there's no clots, I didn't have PMS, I don't have any other symptoms, then I can pretty much say like I had a really good healthy cycle or month before. Um, if I have symptoms, which a lot of people do and like are told, "Oh, it's fine, it's normal, it's okay, just keep going. You're fine." Eh, But to me, it's a pause. And it's not
Mhm.
like it's not, "Oh my God, you're never gonna be able to have a child." But even if you have cramps in a cycle, to me, that is enough to pay attention to. Now, if you're doubled over in pain with a menstrual cycle, something is very wrong,
Mhm.
right? Like we need to start looking for what is causing the pain. It is not normal for you to be in pain. It's definitely not normal for you to be doubled over. If you have mild cramps, to me, I think even that is the body saying like, hey, something's not quite right. The ideal world is flow happens and you're like, where'd that come from? Like,
Yeah.
oh, I guess it's that time. Or you're aware that it's coming and then it's still like, oh, it's happening. Okay. But it's not like an event that you're like, oh my God, stop the world. I'm about to bleed, like it shouldn't be that intense. So it if that is true, like you're having some sort of symptoms, then I think that's enough of a indicator light to say, maybe I should look and see if there's something happening with my menstrual cycle, with my hormones, with my fertility. On the male side, it's a little bit tougher. But in general, and I think we can say this with pretty good certainty that if you have any kind of symptoms, health symptoms, right? You are depressed, you are feeling low energy, you don't sleep well at night, you need coffee to wake up in the morning, you feel depleted. All of those are good indicators that something might be happening under the surface that will affect your fertility on the male side. This is
Hmm.
true on the women's side too, to a certain extent, but I think because men don't have a specific like fertility on off, like is it good, is it not good? We just have to test to know. But we can get a good sense of like, hey, how is your overall health? And what is your overall lifestyle? And are those conducive to your fertility? And if they're not, then that's a clear indicator that you want to get tested sooner rather than later and that you probably want to do something about it. And and then so if we're in this place of we've been trying for a while, we have some symptoms, male or female or both, then it's time to figure out what's my next move. And for the longest time, the only next move was to speak to a practitioner who could help you navigate this whole thing.
Hmm.
In just probably a few weeks, we are going to be launching an app which is going to help people figure out what their next move is.
Mm.
So, in order to say, hey, I have these symptoms. I don't think that they're related to fertility, but I can't seem to get pregnant. What's happening? This analyzer, the app has an analysis on it. The analyzer literally just is designed to figure out what is happening under the surface, what's the root cause, for essentially no money, right? It's free. Um, And my goal with it in creating this was to really eliminate me needing to talk to every single person. So it's sort of
Hmm.
like the analysis that I would do, that all of the questions that I would ask if you said yes to this, then I would ask you this next question. It's basically that, but automated
Hmm.
and without you needing to pay me thousands of dollars to do it. So my hope with this is really to reach all of these people that are like, well, I'm told everything is fine. I can't seem to get pregnant, and I have to wait 12 months before the doctor is going to give me the next step, which is basically going to be IVF, right?
Right.
Or maybe IUI, then IVF. Uh,
Sure.
so if that's the only process we have in our system right now, then there are a lot of people out there that are like, what the heck? Like, I just spent a year trying to conceive. I thought I was ovulating. I thought I was doing all the right things. And now I go to my doctor and they're like, oh, sorry, your fertility is low. Go do IVF. That doesn't seem like a great system to me.
Hmm.
So, that was the problem that I felt like needed to be solved was what do we do for all of the people that are in this like middle zone of no one's doing testing, no one thinks anything is wrong, yet they're going to be pushed into a treatment that is very expensive, but they may not need it, right?
Hmm.
And they may
Hmm.
need it, who knows? But we have this like really prime window where people could be doing things if they knew what to do. Yet no one is showing them the way of here's all the things that you could actually do.
Yeah.
And the core part of that, the foundations is detox, which honestly, like everyone can start doing. I don't care where you are in your fertility journey. Detox. Get rid of all of the chemicals in your house,
Mm-hmm.
minimum. And like almost every toxin that is a reproductive toxin is also carcinogenic.
Mm-hmm.
So not only are you helping your future baby, you're preventing yourselves from getting cancer at the minimum.
Right.
It may not get you to pregnancy, but hey, we've moved the needle to hopefully like less cancer rates and better reproductive rates. Um, so I feel like those are kind of the easy things to do. You can detox your home, you can start doing some basic testing, and in a few weeks, if you wanted to, you could do this analysis and figure out, is there anything that is potentially in the way of me getting pregnant? And for us, it's like you don't have to be trying. You like, we've really created this from the place of, I want every man and woman to be able to have access to understand what their body is saying. Um, because I've talked to like 25-year-olds that have aches and pains, or they're like bloated all the time. And they're like, oh, it's just my age. I'm like, what? You're 25 years old. No, that's not normal.
Yeah.
That is not normal. Who told you that's normal? So it is like, if we want to live from this place of vitality, which is my goal, like, let's be vital for as long as we can possibly be vital and live the best lives. And fertility is like the fruit of that.
Right.
It's not the thing that you need to focus on all the time. But if you are in that path of like, you really want to have children and you're like, what do I do? How do I get started? How do I really like help me break this down before someone tells me that I need IVF and that's my only solution?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we were doing a disservice to all of those people that are in that like waiting period that could be doing things that really like so many women that have PCOS
Mm-hmm.
or have hormonal imbalances, are not ovulating, are having GI distress, that all contribute to fertility issues, but they don't know it
Right.
because their doctor and the system isn't really designed for that.
Well, and so often, things are really normalized and habituated within our culture. So, for example, immediately putting, a young woman on birth control because she's having some challenges with
Mhm.
her menstrual cycle, and then the downstream side effects that occur from long-term use of birth control
Mhm.
over, many, many years, because she's taught to believe that her menstrual cycle has to be controlled, um, pharmaceutically instead of understanding how her body functions and how we might be able to, calm the cycle, or, you know,
Mhm.
that all of the, we haven't even talked about any of this, but like all of the practices that you can utilize in order to avoid pregnancy, for example, we don't
Mhm.
teach any of those
Yeah.
to young people. And so they come to rely on so many of these products that then are detrimental to their fertility in the future,
Mhm.
unfortunately.
Mhm.
You touched
Yeah.
on something. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, to what you just said, like, the majority of women are put on birth control nowadays to support their cycles, not to prevent pregnancy.
Right.
That pregnancy prevention is the side effect or the side benefit of someone being put on birth control to regulate her cycle.
Hmm.
And what's really crucial is I think we don't realize that our endocrine system isn't fully developed when we start menstruating. That's actually the start of the development.
Right.
So we basically like put a pin in developing our endocrine system for 10, 15, sometimes 20 years before we decide, hey, I'm ready for a baby now. Great, get me off of birth control and I'm going to get pregnant. And sometimes that works. Unfortunately, a lot of times that doesn't because that endocrine system never got the development that it needed. It was cut off, shut off, and now there's a disconnect between the communication of the brain and the ovaries. So we have essentially like created an environment that doesn't, it just like there's a disconnect, right? Like the body doesn't know what to do, let
Right.
alone be able to do it optimally. Like that's far out. Like it doesn't even realize that ovulation isn't happening if this woman isn't having the regular flow of hormones throughout her cycle. So that happens frequently. The uterine lining, this is probably the most supported. The rest of what I said about birth control is not supported by research because no one is researching it. I will
Right.
just make that disclaimer now. Uh, the only thing the research supports is that the uterine lining is going to be thinner in women that have used birth control for a long time. So, what's that saying, though, is that the uterus is not responsive to the internal hormones that her body is producing.
Mm.
And her body's probably not producing progesterone very well because of the disconnect between the brain and the ovary. So, it's it's a very like it's almost an afterthought in our world um to be like, hey, how does this actually impact fertility?
Right.
And it's unfortunate because you talk to your OB and they're going to be like, there's no impact on fertility. That's crazy.
Right.
But the reality is extremely different. And
Yeah.
it's because it's the quality of the answer is always going to be reflected by the quality of the question. And if we
Mm.
didn't ask the right questions, then we're not going to see the responses because we didn't ask the questions.
Yeah. You mentioned something earlier that I wanted to make sure that we came back to, and that's that lifestyle plays a huge role in all of this. And so, what is the impact of things like, specific diets, like things like vegetarian diet, even where people think they're doing things that are healthy, but maybe are
Mhm.
not able to produce the proper nutrients for baby, or things like recreational drug use, people that
Mhm.
are smoking marijuana regularly, or alcohol users, people that are drinking, even just casually or socially. How does that impact fertility for those couples?
There's going to be different effects of all the different y- things that they could be
Sure.
doing. So we can kind of go off the list, right? What's trending right now is the carnivore keto diets.
Hmm.
So let me just speak to those first. Those diets, though okay for short periods of time, can be extremely depleting in the long term and are devoid of nutrients called antioxidants that come
Hmm.
from fruits and vegetables. So to me, that's a major factor. Things like cigarettes, there's like over 7,000 studies on how cigarettes or nicotine is going to negatively affect egg quality, sperm quality, fertility, pregnancy, right? Like anything related to fertility there's a good amount of research on it. Like if you want to have a baby, there's no way. Like just get off the cigarettes and hopefully you're off of them for years before you want to get pregnant. Not not a year, not 6 months. people are like, oh, I'll quit and then I'll get pregnant. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, let's work on that. So that is an absolute uh, an absolute no. Like in no world do cigarettes exist for fertility.
Mhm.
Alcohol, there's less research on, but I think we have enough research. Like I know that alcohol is like the socially accepted drug of choice, but to me, I feel like uh, I always am walking this line of I don't want to be too extreme, but I want to tell you the truth. And the truth is the amount of oxidative stress that alcohol causes in the body is almost never useful and it kills. We use alcohol as a disinfectant, right? So we use it on our hands to disinfect our hands. Not that I think we should. Please don't take that as advice. I think that's actually a bad thing to do, but we do it and we think it's a good thing. Yet, when we drink the alcohol, we put it into our bodies, we kill all the microbes in our gut. So if you do this repeatedly over the course of time, you have effectively destroyed your gut microbiome, which now is very researched to be connected to your vaginal microbiome. And there's also a male microbiome of the reproductive system. So if we're negatively affecting the microbes in our body, we affect the production of hormones, neurotransmitters, and the absorption and utilization of nutrients. So the direct impact of alcohol is in it is like the indirect way is on fertility, but the very direct that we know is, well, you're not going to absorb your nutrients well, you're probably going to feel depressed, and you may have other downstream effects on fertility. So those are pretty relevant. Marijuana is, in my book, is very clear. THC, at least from the research that I've seen, it has an effect on cortisol.
Mm,
So THC is stimulating the production of cortisol. Even though you feel chill, internally, your body's spitting out cortisol.
mm,
That is going to put you in fight or flight, which is almost never a good thing for reproduction. If you're running from a tiger, you're not trying to get pregnant. You can't do
mhm,
those at the same time. So, um, marijuana in general, probably not a great thing. For men, it is likely a worse thing than for women,
mm.
but it's just because we haven't tested it that much on women.
Right.
So we know that there's an impact on sperm motility, a very direct impact. But I think this like overall idea that it affects cortisol is going to have an impact on fertility in general, in women specifically. So that's the marijuana. Vegetarian and vegan diets are an interesting one because I've heard a lot of practitioners say, "Oh, that's what's affecting your fertility. You need to just go eat some meat." And that could be true for some people, but I've had a lot of vegetarian clients that are able to conceive.
Mhm,
So what I think is the problem there is not really an overt problem with the diet. It's a problem with implementation,
mm.
right? People who go vegetarian think, oh, I'll just take out all the meat in my diet. It's like, okay, well, what did you add in? Nothing. I just eat bread and potatoes and pasta and,
Right.
all the things. And I'm like, well, you're protein deficient, right? So if you are going to be vegan or vegetarian, you really have to focus in on getting adequate levels of protein, which is an essential part of a balanced diet and
Mhm,
is a very much important part of making the right hormones and making babies.
mhm,
So I tell people, look, it's okay. Like you can stay vegan, but that's going to mean you're going to wake up and eat some beans for breakfast. And they're like, what? I'm like, those are your options. Like, eat some beans or go back to eating meat. But you can't keep eating what you're eating and think you're doing well
Hmm.
for your
Hmm.
fertility, right? So it can be
Yeah.
done. I've been vegan for 25 years, so
Hmm.
I get it. I can do it, but I also know that people who do that transition quickly and haven't ever been taught how to, because I went through this, I was like, I got to medical school depleted, super depleted. I had four doctors with white coats walk into my clinic room and were like, "You're going to keel over and die. Like, you need a steak today." And they were literally like, "Let's go. We're going to dinner. You can't afford it. We'll pay for it." And I'm like, "I'm good. I'll be all right." They're like, "You're going to keel over and die." And they were like so diehard about it. And I was like, "Okay, I will look into it and I will let you know if we want to go to dinner." And what I ended up with was like, well, okay, so I just got out of undergrad where I was living on campus. I had stopped eating all of my traditional foods and went to what can I get in a cafeteria in a
Mm.
college? I can get pasta, I can get bread, tomato sauce. There's no beans, no protein. I can get some salad. That's pretty much it. So I had lived on that for 4 years. Of course, I was depleted.
Yeah.
Of course, I didn't have any protein. Of course, my B12 was shot. So all of those things made sense, but it was in the problem was the implementation and
Hmm.
not realizing that me leaving home eating a very well balanced vegetarian diet put me in this weird place when I got to school of like just going off the rails.
Yeah.
So it took me a while to like come out of that and be like, okay, I need to like be way more mindful about what I'm putting into my body and like
Hmm.
where is the adequate protein and making an effort that not everyone is ready to make, right? Like
Right.
sometimes I'm like, it's just easier to eat meat. I'm sorry, but I'm not a like I'm not a diehard of like everyone be vegan. It's more like, well, it's a choice, and if you really want to be vegan, this is what it's gonna take. It's gonna take a whole lot of beans.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I was vegan when I got pregnant,
Mm,
and and I'd been vegan for a few years at that point, but
mhm.
I've always struggled off and on with anemia, and so when I got pregnant, I craved a steak. Like I don't know, I was probably 6 or 7 weeks
Yeah, yeah.
pregnant, and I ordered steak on my salad and
Hmm.
never went back at that
Hmm.
at that
Hmm.
point. So,
I
I
believe
think,
it.
everybody just when you listen to your body and you
Hmm.
understand the intuitive guidance that, okay, like for me, I'm going to be totally anemic during this pregnancy if I
Hmm.
don't start changing the way I eat. And for me, that was, you know, grab some steak and put it on my salad. I mean, I still ate
Exactly.
tons of fruits and vegetables, but that's what my body was telling me I needed. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
And I agree. Like I think it's so important to listen to our bodies and that our bodies are usually in tune and telling us what we need. And the easiest solution in the vegan situation is eat some meat.
right.
Like just eat it. And if and then if you're like super adamant against it, I had a vegetarian whose hormones were almost non-existent, like very, very, very low, and very low ovarian reserve. And she was told like the only way she was going to get pregnant was eating, or sorry, only way to get pregnant was going to be an egg donor.
Mm,
And the main thing, like, yes, we did hormonal stuff, but the main thing that we were doing with them was getting more protein into their bodies.
hmm.
And within months, she was like, oh my God, my blood flow is changing from like 1 day a month to 2, 3, 4 days a month. I'm
Mm.
having flow. I have red flow. It's like, she was just like, I can't believe it. I'm like, all you're doing different is you added beans. Like
Yeah.
you're eating more
Yeah.
beans. So it sometimes is wild, but I feel like, and for even for me these days, I'm like, I know when I'm iron deficient, like I know I need to just supplement certain
Mm-hmm.
things
Mm-hmm.
because I've chosen this lifestyle. I'm not gonna get everything from my food. So I opt for supplements when I need them.
Mm-hmm.
But that awareness is crucial.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like really adamant on the lifestyle, but aren't adapting for it for like, okay, so now you're missing this major thing. How are you going to put it back into your body in a
Right.
way that's sustainable?
Absolutely. Well, I could talk for much longer, but we have reached the tail end of our podcast where I ask every single one of our guests 8 rapid fire questions. They're designed to give the listeners a little bit more insight into who you are and what makes you tick. So, number one, if you could choose only one natural remedy for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Breath.
Oh, I like that. I actually don't know if anybody's ever said that. All right, tell us something most people don't know about you.
Mm. Hmm. Something most people don't know about me. I am like, but it's gonna sound so vain. I love having my nails like super pro proper. I don't even know what the word is, but my nails are often always did.
Awesome. If I were to compile a playlist of happy music, what song would you suggest be added?
Right now, my what is, I don't even know the title of it. I heard it in my workout yesterday, like
Mm,
in a class I was in, and I was like, oh my
sure.
God, I have to have this song. Um, Shake It to the Max, Shake It to the Max. Like that's my song right now.
Awesome. All right, number four, what is your favorite guilty pleasure?
Chocolate.
Yeah. All
Easy.
right. What is the most influential book you've ever read?
Mm. Oh, The Big Leap by, I think it's by Gay Hendricks. I love
Hmm,
that book. I try to like go back to it once a year. It's
awesome.
amazing. Amazing.
What does the word revolution mean to you?
Hmm. It's for me, I think a revolution is something that evolves us and moves us closer to who we are,
Hmm.
truly.
And what does the word remedy mean to you?
Um, Remedy is the solution to the actual problem.
Awesome. Lastly, if you could impart one piece of wisdom onto our listeners, what would that be?
That whatever you want is on the other side of realizing what the actual problem is and um, knowing that the solution is available. You just have to look for it.
Wonderful. Well, Dr. Aumatma, please tell our listeners where can they find you so that they can get access to that amazing app that you told us about?
Absolutely. So, the best place to connect is on Instagram at Holistic Fertility Doctor. I will be putting out um, the info for the app and stuff as we release. Our website is going to be madrefertility.com. Don't go to it right now, but it'll be out available in a few weeks. So, yeah, that'll be the best place to get that app. And then our my website is holisticfertilityinstitute.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you all for listening. I look forward to connecting with you all next time. Take care.
Thanks for having me.
With hope as a guiding light, through darkest days we'll fight the night.